I, 29 female, have a civil relationship with my ex, 29 male, despite him cheating on me with my sister, 32 female. My sister is now demanding I have a relationship with her too. I, 29 female, I'm the youngest of 4. I have a brother, 35 male, and twin siblings, 32 male and 32 female. This is about my sister. Buckle up, this is a long one. From the moment I could remember, my sister has always hated me. Not the typical hate between siblings, but true hate. Everything I did she had to outdo, every boy I liked she had to have first. She has gone out of her way to bully me more times than I can remember. The only people who stepped in were my brothers. My father was absent due to his work, and my mother clearly had a favorite, and that wasn't me. I learned early on that I needed to protect myself, and if it wasn't for my brother and best friend, 29 male, I'm pretty sure my self-esteem would have plummeted. The stories I have relating to my sister's and mother's abuse could be written into a novel, and there's far too many. Anyway, fast forward to my college days when I kept low contact with my mother and no contact with my sister. I met a guy. We dated for 2 years. We fell in love, the usual stuff. Then on the day of my graduation party, I caught him and my sister doing the nasty in the guest house. Well, that partly quickly turned into a disaster. Turns out their affair had been going on for 4 months and she claimed to be in love with him and was carrying his child. Mother begged me, literally this woman begged me, to let my boyfriend go, to make that sacrifice for my only sister. Her literal words, by the way. By the time that party was over, my ex barely escaped without getting beaten to death by my brothers, uncles, and my one crazy aunt. Love that woman. I did even in fact break up with him on the spot, but not for my sister or mother, but because he betrayed me. I knew I couldn't trust him, and thanks to the wonderful support system I have, I knew I deserved better. After that disaster, I moved to the other side of the country to begin my new job. Now, I'm highly in demand in my field due to my degrees and specialties, which has allowed me to rise up in the ranks quite quickly and earn far more than I could spend as I live in a rather modest way, with the only thing I splurge on being trips and food. In those 7 years living away from most of my family, I haven't spoken to my mother or sister. I almost cut my dad off too for being too impartial, but he ended up divorcing my mother, and realized how many times he failed to stand up for me during my childhood. All thanks to my brothers, by the way. He begged to reconnect a few months after my graduation party, and we've had a strong relationship since, just as I always have with my brothers. The whole family basically abandoned my mother and sister, and only kept contact for the sake of the child, a child they've attempted to use as leverage in many cases, but that's a story for another time. My ex had a little sister, one which I adored and dearly missed with the time away. About a year when I left our hometown, she contacted me via Instagram. She was attending college in my state and expressed how much she missed me, and after a few messages along with a coffee date, we reconnected. She kept me updated on the saga that was my sister and her brother's relationship, not that I asked her to. I quickly found out her brother dumped my sister after the child was born. Apparently, he wanted to wait until his child was born to not cause my sister stress, which would cause pregnancy issues. They have been maintaining a strict co-parenting relationship ever since, which my sister hated. She's even attempted to keep his child away from him, but my ex's family is disgustingly wealthy, so the lawyer stepped in, and strict protocols were put in place to guarantee both parents did their part. I met my sister's child through my ex's sister. I've gone over to her house after work with the intentions of going out to dinner, but she had texted me to cancel the plans. But my phone died, and when I arrived at her apartment, I was surprised with not only with my ex, but the love child too. And guys, the moment I met her, I simply fell in love. I had seen pictures through my family, but they were nothing compared to the real thing. My older brother has 2 kids, which I spoil at any given chance. May it be gifts, trips, or even just stocking up on their favorite beauty supplies. If they wanted it, I got it. I got the money and it never hurt my bank account. I've even organized various trips for the entire family with only my niece missing, and my sister would refuse to let her come with us without her. After seeing how frustrated my family was with my mother and sister for using my niece as a bargaining chip, I put away my pride and contacted my ex. I asked if it was okay if his daughter would join us on said trips. Immediately, he was delighted, because his daughter had expressed feelings of being left out from our side of the family, something we've never wanted. Ever since that agreement, my ex and I would plan out when the little cousins would get together for their trips. Then over the years, our relationship had turned civil. The civil agreement I had with my ex had been kept a secret from my sister. My brothers, along with my father and extended family, agreed it was for the best, as the hatred my sister held for us was hindering her child's happiness. But she recently found out after snooping through a family's Instagram page and seeing her daughter with us on a trip to Disneyland. She confronted us at my brother's house when he was hosting a barbecue. She demanded the same level of respect and forgiveness I gave to my ex, and when I refused, she called me a hypocrite and a-hole. Truth be told, I have forgiven my ex, and my sister too, for everything they've done to me. However, I simply don't want my sister in my life, and my family agrees. They've all had their fair share of drama with her and my mother. They've burned down far too many bridges, and if it wasn't for my niece, they would have been cut off too from the family. I could have been somewhat civil to my sister after the affair. However, unlike my ex, she acted as if I was the affair partner, as if I was the one who stole everything from her. She's never once apologized, took the blame, or even have a little shame. I don't want anything to do with her. I barely want a relationship with my ex, but he understands I'm only doing this for my niece. I don't want her to feel unwanted and unloved, and with her mother being my sister and her grandmother being my mother, she has a very high chance of that. I do, however, want to keep my niece happy, and perhaps her relationship with her mother may do that? Now for the top advice. There is no way, there is never a way to have a healthy relationship with people like your sister. Even trying would just make her get even more demanding and would start her trying to use her daughter as a weapon to control you the way she did your ex. Honestly, I discussed this with your ex, since he's been the one your arrangement is with, and he also has experience dealing with your sister's BS. Tell him you want to continue your relationship with your niece, but don't want any trouble starting with her mother. So you leave it up to him to decide how to navigate the situation. I've had this discussion with my ex. He's more than happy to keep it going, but I feel as though it will only cause more issues in the future. My family and I have come to an agreement to let this whole thing play out without interferences. As much as we want our niece to feel included in the family, we fear our sister would do something crazy just to prevent that. Nah, your ex has legal rights and a good lawyer. She tries to pull something up, she'll end up losing more stuff. She knows this. OP, your sister is just going to use and manipulate you again, as she has done so much in the past. When your brothers are saying to stay away from her, listen to them since they are closer to everything than you are. You are best off simply going through your ex to see your niece. Your sister is simply toxic. You can tell your sister that you forgave her long ago, but you'll never trust her, and she'll never be your friend. I'm thinking of just keeping my distance. If my niece decides she wants to have a relationship with me when she's 18, then I'll make contact then. I just didn't want her growing up thinking her mother's family didn't love her. It's a crappy feeling, and with the poison her grandmother and mother are definitely feeding to her, I can very well see her hating her cousins and uncles and aunties when she's older. You need to be careful for not letting them turning her like your sister, and do the same stuff to her cousins. The father has his rights and time with his daughter, so when he has her, spend family time with her and don't care about those two crazies. You have the support of all the family, so do it. And if your supposed mother and sister continue to attack you, go through legal actions and they will shut it. I think you need to butt out completely. This is not your child, and you are stepping out of your lane. If your mother did what you were doing, this would be all over just no mother-in-law, with everybody saying your mother was overstepping her lane and she had no rights to that child. Right or wrong, none of you have a right to time with that child. What you are doing is called parental alienation. As for your sister, she is clearly a piece of work. Tell her to get lost, but leave her child alone. Last story. Told my sister she doesn't deserve to be a mother on Mother's Day. I, 19 female, told my sister, 30 female, that she doesn't deserve to be a mother on Mother's Day. My nephew is currently 3 years old, and she barely treats him like a son, but rather an accessory. She's constantly in social media, flaunting her motherhood. She tells people it's so hard to be a single mom, when that's something she absolutely chose for herself. She decided to get pregnant on her own, and cut ties with a father who wanted to be there for my nephew. Just recently, my sister left for another state to work on herself and her finances. She left my nephew with my parents, and it's been hard for everyone. She gradually stopped calling us frequently and starts up an argument with my parents when they ask her for money to get him things he needs, such as diapers, wipes, food, etc. She tells them she doesn't need to pay them for those things because that's their grandson. And if she keeps giving them money all the time, then she left his state for no reason because she'll have no money to provide for them when she gets back. It's infuriating. As she does this, she posts on social media about how she's in the best position of her life, how her mental health is improving, and she's living the life as a single mom. She has a bit of a temper when confronted, so I've always held back on giving my opinion. But just before Mother's Day came around, my dad offered to take my nephew to her so she could be with her son. Mind you, she hasn't seen him in around 4 months. My dad asked her for the address and just stopped answering him. I messaged her and asked her where she was, and she replied that she was in a further state than she previously said. It seemed as if she didn't want to get a visit from my dad and her son. When Mother's Day came around, she posted a celebration with her friends at a club. I deserve this. Happy Mother's Day to me. I got fed up with this and told her she didn't deserve to be a mother. I told her that she doesn't deserve to have such a beautiful son, and he's going to absolutely hate her and forget her when he begins to understand why she isn't around. My parents said I was wrong about this. Edit: I'd like to make a few things clear. The father is not in the picture. He met my nephew just once when he was 1. He had the interest to be in his life to create one with my sister, not for the well-being of my nephew. He's just as bad, I believe. My parents definitely do enable her toxic behaviors, which is why this is such a complex case. Although she's 30, she acts like a child. She acts very entitled to my parents' money and help, which has made it easy for her to abandon my nephew to them. My mom loves my nephew like he's her own son, and the reason they got upset with me was because they didn't want me to challenge her to come back. My nephew prefers my mother much more. Their bond is inseparable, and everyone's afraid of her taking him away. They want to get a lawyer involved, and while it may sound like a simple solution, the trauma that comes with it is absolutely terrible for him. They don't want him to feel nothing less than a loved and cherished boy. He's a great boy. He's very loving and sensitive. Although he can't fully understand what's going on, he feels it. He has attachment issues with my mother. It's noticeable he's afraid she'll abandon him too. I hope you said that on her social media account for all her followers to see. I would love nothing more, but she blocked me and everything. Your sister sounds absolutely horrific. Just had a kid, as you said, to have as an accessory. It's disgusting when people do this. I know it's hard for your parents, but I would go to court and get full custody of the boy. That way, whenever your sister does come back, she can't use him anymore. Or if your parents don't want to do that, maybe get the boy's father in the picture, if he still wants to be a father. But I definitely think court needs to be involved. She doesn't even want him to visit her. That's just disgusting. I talked to my dad about this, and they're seriously considering taking custody of my nephew. Since she left, he's been struggling emotionally. He hasn't spoken a word, and although she's not around, she completely protests the idea of therapy. They want to please take him, but they can't do that without her permission apparently. So in the best interest of him, that may very well be happening sometime in the future. She literally abandoned him. I wouldn't think the courts would allow the decision to be up to her at this point. If she hasn't seen her kid in 4 months, moved far away, and won't say where, it's time to file for custody. This will clear up everything really quick. Mom will come and get the kid, show up to court, or she won't and will pay child support. Maybe then the dad can be involved in his life too. Good luck. The fact that she refuses to give an address to where she currently is means you need to send copies to her last known address. This actually works in the petitioner's favor. Parents need to file for emergency custody with all the text messages, any social media posts you all can find, and if there are any Venmos you can. You all cannot even get him medical attention if he becomes sick and needs a doctor. That's the thing. She lived with my parents prior to moving away. As soon as she got pregnant, she moved in and had my parents take care of her financially. She was living off of my parents up until she decided that she needed to get away from here and work for a better life for her and my nephew. Well then, I guess she should have supplied a current address, because if your parents' home is still her only known residence, then the paperwork would be sent there. I would do a cursory search for her name/address based on the states she's claimed to be in, but if nothing comes up, that's her fault. An emergency order is normally done on the day it's filed with the courts. In the address section, your parents can also just write unknown. The court may attempt to call her during the hearing, but if she doesn't pick up, they are not going to waste time waiting more than that day. The order will be temporary, and they can get paperwork to file for more permanent custody while there. Child services may be called in during the emergency custody period to assess an attempt to track down both biological parents. But if y'all don't know who the father is and she refuses to name him, then the decision will be whether to keep him with your parents or your sister, if she even wants him. Am I the a-hole for not splitting my inheritance with my estranged sister? I, now 28, grew up in a heavily conservative family with one sister. When I was 10 and my older sister was 18, my parents disowned her after catching her with another girl. I did not attempt to contact my sister until I was 21 and in college. My parents had convinced me that she was wrong, and it took a while for me to unwind their beliefs and realize that the world isn't like that anymore, and my sister was simply different. I found her on Facebook and messaged her saying I didn't agree with how my parents treated her and I wanted to meet up and keep in touch. She replied the next day saying she had moved on from her family and that she wished me the best, but did not want any ties to her childhood, including me. I left it at that. 4 years ago, my mom died. I let my sister know on Facebook and she didn't reply. Early this year, my dad died. I again sent my sister a message, just so she would be aware. She did not reply. When my mother died, she left everything to my father. And when he died, he left everything to me. The amount is substantial. Then 3 days ago, my sister sent me a message asking if the will had been executed. I replied simply stating yes. Then she sent me a message saying that I should split my inheritance with her, because it's not her fault that my parents disowned her and removed her from the will. I have not replied to her yet. I can see her point, but I feel like she's a stranger to me. If she had been open to me once I reached out to her, I think I would do it. But I have no relationship with her outside of some early childhood memories and a handful of Facebook messages, the most meaningful of which is her rejecting being my sister. Am I the a-hole if I say no? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You reached out to her earlier and she refused to meet with you, telling you she wanted no contact with the family, including you. Now she wants money? It's yours. You do not have to share with her. In fact, she wouldn't want it as it's a tie to the family. This 100%. I'm sorry, sister, but I feel like the money would be a tie back to your childhood and I don't want you to suffer with that. This. Not the a-hole. She made her bed with you and she chose to ignore you. Unfortunately, now she has to lie in it with substantially less money. Not the a-hole. Don't give her anything. She said she doesn't want any ties to her childhood. Giving her the half of the inheritance would disrespect that. Agreed. Not the a-hole. Your sister told you via Facebook that she moved on from her family, including you. So you can let her know since she moved on from her family, she also moved on from their money. Period. My condolences to you. The fact that she only cares about the inheritance and not that their mom and dad died says a lot about her too. It's not her fault that my parents disowned her and removed her from the will. No, but it was her choice to reject you and not want any ties with her family. She didn't even send you a sorry for your loss message when your parents died. You wouldn't be hearing from her now if there wasn't significant money involved. Since she didn't want a relationship with you, the last member of her bio family, she's not entitled to a dime of family money. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for spending my dad's estranged father's money? My dad and I had a very bad, toxic relationship. When I, 31, female, was 20, I told him that I never wanted to have a contact with him again. I haven't spoken to him since. He died unexpectedly a few months ago at age 56. My dad was always a bit of a slacker, and it turns out he slacked off in writing his will/managing his post-mortem finance plans. Basically, I was listed as the only inheritor of almost all of his stuff. I had no idea about this until he died. But I probably wasn't supposed to get all his money because he made it clear that he despised me. My dad has a very close relationship with his brother, my uncle, and his niece, my cousin, 24 female. Apparently, he had made comments to them about how they were his only family. Some days nice house would be theirs and so on. When my dad died, my cousin reached out to me and explained that there had been a mistake in his legal situation, and his money was supposed to go to them. She showed me tons of pictures on her phone of her family spending time with him as proof that they had a closer relationship. Admittedly, the money should have gone to them, but it didn't. It went to me. So I told my cousin that it wasn't my fault the money had come to me, and I wasn't about to give her any of it just because she was buddies with my cruel dad. I have already made plans for how I want to spend a significant portion of the money. I've paid off my student loans, I'm going to buy a house, and I bought a new car. Nothing too fancy, just something nice. My cousin texted me recently telling me that I was vile for spending the money of a man I hated, a man she loved. I told her that I was sorry for her loss, but it was rightfully my money. I don't feel bad for spending a cent of it. I've talked to plenty of lawyers and the money is legally mine. But morally, I do think I might be an a-hole for spending money that belonged to someone I was estranged from. So, I wanted to ask here, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It's your money. Ignore your cousins. They turned nasty as soon as they were told no. If the money was supposed to go to them, it would have gone to them. Not the a-hole. Your father is to blame for not organizing his affairs at any time. If it were me, I'd probably give his brother some of the money but not all of it. Your father put you through a lot of grief. You should be compensated. How does Opie even know her father wanted them to have any money? Because Uncle and niece said he did? That's not exactly the most reliable testimony. I wish I could upvote this 100 times. I was the inheritor of an estate. He would bring up concerns about me getting by after his death and gave me his will. Still, when he died, the spouse of another family member told me he said he was leaving them money. I knew it wasn't true, but this lie has affected the way I see this branch of the family. Some people will say/claim anything for. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. This was on your father. You could make an argument that you're his actual daughter and it's right for you to inherit based on that. And your cousin could make an argument saying that she was closer to him. However, the argument is moot because the one listed to inherit was you. That's what counts. She has no way of knowing whether despite everything that was his intention anyway. And the reason she, and you, don't know that is because he didn't take the time to make his intentions clear, if in fact he did want anything to be done in a non-standard way. If Opie's dad was really that toxic, it also wouldn't shock me if this was his intention, specifically because he knew it would cause strife for Opie after his death too. You might be overthinking this. Certainly he probably didn't expect to die at 56. But he had enough foresight to write a will in the first place, so he could have made the effort to keep it up to date if that was what he desired. But sometimes reality isn't what we expect. He might have regretted his relationship with you. He might have hoped to eventually resolve things. And yes, he might have found some degree of solace with other members of his family but was still keeping the door open for you to return and to mend things up. That wouldn't be an uncommon story. So he never changed the will because he hadn't yet given up on you. So don't consider it an oversight. If not at his death, at one point in his life he wanted you to have everything and put that in writing. You were estranged and your relationship was toxic, but perhaps he didn't despise you as much as you thought. It's your money now, not the a-hole. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for picking my daughter's career for her? My daughter, 17 female, has always been a smart girl. She has a huge potential future available for her. She has the ability to become one of the greatest data scientists ever. It's an incredibly rewarding job for her, especially since technology is the way to go for the future and the country we live in is expensive. As a computer scientist myself, I've always loved my job. However, she does not want to be one. I've been influencing her since she was 10. She was initially excited but doesn't want to anymore. She took 2 tech classes in grades 9 and 10 and she isn't taking one in 11th or 12th grade. She says that she wants to be a psychologist and now wants to have a business major. I don't think it's right fit for her, the former, because she doesn't have the social skills needed to become a psychologist. She's autistic. Heck, she couldn't even handle her brothers well. How is she supposed to deal with adults with psychological issues? The latter as well, because it involves dealing with people that can be very immature. Also, she took a business course in grade 10 and she ended up not liking it. So why would you take an entire university program? Yesterday, we sat down and we were looking at potential programs. She picked a few from Bachelor of Commerce programs. I tried pushing her to pick the Bachelor of Computer Science programs. At the end, she asked if I would support her no matter what she picks. I laughed and told her not to give me a scare. So it's a no then? She asked. I told her that she can take her highlight a program she's interested in and we can discuss. She said that I criticize every program that isn't tech-related. I tried convincing her that the tech field is a very rewarding field, and she is smart and capable. And then she snapped. She said that she doesn't care if it's a gold mine and she's capable enough to handle it. She hates the computer tech field, and I've been forcing her to do it for a long time. She says it's her future, not mine, and not everyone wants to be a tech scientist. She asked how I feel if my father tried to push me to the law field since it's a rewarding job despite me having no interest in social sciences. Then she stormed out. At that point, I realized that I may have pushed her too hard. I just want her to have a bright future and no struggles. But I guess went about it the wrong way. Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Also, autistic people make great psychologists for other autistic people. I wish that I could find one. Neurotypical psychologists keep trying to cure my autism, and it makes me not want to seek help for my problems. Agreed. We urgently need more neurodivergent psychologists. I have one, and she's a godsend. She's the first person in the field I've felt has understood me. You're the a-hole. Aw, sorry your kid doesn't want to be exactly like you. She's her own person, so let her be. How do you know she has what it takes to be one of the greatest data scientists? By the way, we embedded developers look down on data scientists and all other programmers. Why aren't you pushing her into embedded science? They are the greatest. How do I know? Well, I am one, so obviously. Now, do I sound ludicrous? You're the a-hole. Let your daughter be who she wants to be, not what you want her to be. That just sets her up for failure and unhappiness. The worst part is that Opie may well be right, but Opie's daughter will resent her being forced and is likely to rebel against it. If left to her own decisions, with gentle advice that doesn't have a particular agenda, daughter may well have come to the conclusion that a career in tech is for her, but forcing the issue will just make her cross that off the list. The way it reads to me is that exactly has already happened. Opie has pushed their daughter every year since they were 10 to do tech-related things. She may come back to tech eventually and finds that she loves it, but honestly, Opie, every time you condescend other professions or mention tech, it's going to be longer and longer before she even attempts it. Or she's going to stick to her guns in whatever profession she does choose, even if she turns out to hate it, because she wants to show you that it was truly what she was meant to do. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for leaving a family dinner at a restaurant after they put me on the kids' table? I, 18 male, I'm the youngest of 3 brothers. My older brother, let's call him Leo, has 2 kids, and my middle brother, let's call him Kenny, has twins. I don't have any kids and live by myself, whereas they both have partners. We went to a restaurant today for dinner and they put the kids on one table and the adults on the other. However, there was only space on the adult table for 6 people, meaning one of us had to sit at the kids' table. Me, being the only one without a partner and also being the youngest, was put on the kids' table. I asked why one of my brothers couldn't sit at the kids' table as they actually have kids on the table. My parents said that there was only one space on the kiddie table, so as I'm a loner, I should be on it. They said that they also wanted to get to know the partners a bit more and I could bond with the kids as I don't see them as often as I would like. This all happened whilst we were at a restaurant, so I didn't want to cause a huge scene with shouting and fighting. I politely said that as I have come here to spend time with my parents and brothers, not their kids, and I will be leaving unless I have a spot at the adults' table. They said that they were sorry, but there was no room for me. I then said that I was sorry too, and I left. My brother chased after me saying that he really wanted to see me and spend time with me. And I said that if you wanted to see me that much, you would find room at a table with you. He said that I could still speak with them at the kids' table as they are next to each other. I said I'm sorry, but I don't feel comfortable sitting with a bunch of 5 to 7-year-olds. I told him that you would completely ignore me like you have done before, and the restaurant is loud, so you wouldn't even be able to hear me. I politely thanked him for the invite and said it was nice to see you and enjoy your meal. Then I left. So, am I the a-hole? Not today, Hall. I want to see you. Don't sit with us is a weird way to show he wanted to see you. It sounds like they invited you to babysit for them. I was thinking this. Definitely this. It wasn't that there was no room at the adult table, but that no restaurant would let 4 young children sit at a table without supervision. One of the adults had to sit with the kids, and it's so entirely baffling that none of the kids' parents thought they should be the one to do so. Exactly. They wanted him to babysit because he was younger. They thought, oh, he'd relate to them. I worked at a restaurant called Waffle House. I remembered sitting 3 tables, 2 for adults and 1 for kids. Big party, but no adults sat with kids. So to me, it seemed like they wanted a babysitter. Kids are messy and spilt syrup or ketchup, food and drinks. Not today, Hall. Have you ever noticed that the people who demand you endure a discomfort for the sake of etiquette never stand the slightest discomfort to themselves? You can literally use this rhetorically to anyone who tries to give you grief about this. Not today, Hall OP, but let's call a thing a thing. They wanted to enjoy an evening out at a restaurant without kids. You were not a guest at their dinner. You were their unpaid babysitter for the evening. Parents should not expect other people to take care of their kids for free. They could easily have hired a babysitter for the night, but it was someone's bright idea to not spend money and have you do it for free. Not today, Hall. It's not that difficult to make a reservation for odd numbers. Seems like this was a predetermined plan that you got surprised with last minute. That always seems to be the case when it comes to me and the family. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my stepdaughter's college? My 48 male stepdaughter Hannah, 18 female, is going to attend college. I know her for around 4 years since I married her mother. The issue though is that we've never gotten along well. I have tried, but she always says that she doesn't like me and wants her real dad. When I try to tell her stuff or scold her for behaving out of order, she'd say, "You are not my father, you're just some stranger." My wife family asked her to behave properly as well, but she doesn't care to listen, and in the end, she stopped telling her as well. I had to pick Hannah up at school once, and when a couple of people who did not know I was her stepdad asked her who I was, she said, "Oh, he's a servant actually," in front of my face. I was extremely mad at that, and it even resulted in a huge argument, although she played it off as a joke. But this was the last straw, and that happened a good few months back. After that, I have always treated her as if she's invisible, and barely had any interactions with her unless absolutely necessary. Well, she talked to me presently and said she's got to apply to college and wants me to pay her fees now. I refused and asked her to ask her real dad, who refused to pay for it himself. She began to protest and said that I'm affecting her education and that I cannot do that. But I did not relent and said she's not my business now. My wife says refusing to pay is wrong and that I overreacted even though she's not been nice to me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Tell her you can't afford it on your servant's wages. Seriously, her 2 birth parents have had 18 years to save up for college education. You have had 4 years of putting up with her rudeness, with no backup or support from your wife, her mother, and she has the temerity to speak to you now that she wants your money? Now she can have 4 years of missing out on her dream college, and think over how treating someone as less than human isn't a good life strategy. I feel the "don't bite the hand that feeds you" is kind of fitting in this case. It's plain stupidity to be rude for 4 years and then suddenly expect someone will happily throw money at you. Right? And act like it's a joke. She wasn't even the bare minimum of civil to him. The ATM should be closed. Even worse is there are people here saying that he should have sucked it up, and on top of that saying the servant comment wasn't that bad. Not the a-hole. She's going to refuse to accept you as her parent and degrade and disrespected you 24/7, including in front of other people. Yet, she wants one of the biggest benefits of you technically being her parent. She's clearly being selfish and manipulative, and I'm not surprised her mother is defending her, given how her daughter acts. In the end, it's your money and you're entitled to spend it however you please. And I would also beg of you to not pay squat regarding her college. Like I said, she refuses to treat you like her parent, but at the same time expects all the benefits of you being her parent. Nope. It looks like Hannah finally learned a good adult lesson about consequences. At 18, she is not owed money by anyone, and if you ruin a relationship, then you risk not being helped in times of need. It must have felt good to tell that brat she should fix her own education. Where was your wife for the last 4 years? And why is she not backing you up here? Why did she not save money for her daughter's future? She has known for the last 18 years this was likely coming. Not the a-hole, and your wife and stepdaughter are a-holes. The wife is definitely a huge a-hole in my opinion. She's ignoring the husband, OP, and the daughter's emotional needs. It sounds like her daughter should have been in therapy ages ago, before this whole thing escalated to the point where OP avoids the stepdaughter altogether. That's not a healthy environment at all, and I would be so uncomfortable if I was living with them. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's kids, 24 female and 22 male, that my house isn't their family home and it's not my fault their mom lost theirs? I married my husband 2 years ago. He has 2 kids, 24 female and 22 male. He had a very nasty divorce from their mom that was fought out over the course of years. Part of the reason for the marriage ending was she had a drug problem and blew through their savings and was running up credit cards he didn't know about to pay for it. The divorce finalized when the youngest was 16. She wanted the house and the divorce, which was a big part of the fight, and she ended up getting it. She immediately moved in her addict boyfriend and another couple they used with, and the house ended up getting destroyed and falling into foreclosure, and they then proceeded to squat in it and had to be forcibly removed. Because my husband and his ex ended up also having to file bankruptcy, he had been living in a friend's basement when I met him, due to his credit being wrecked. Fast forward, we are married, he moves into my house, got a prenup, and he can't be on a mortgage due to his credit anyways. His ex and kids are living with grandparents. His kids and ex don't like me. They refer to me as that C-word. But at this point, they're all adults, so I'm not going to force things with them. Grandparents recently had to sell their home and they're now living with their mom's friends. They asked if they could move in with us, and I said no. Both got angry and started telling me that this was their dad's home, and that makes this their family home too, and it wasn't up to me if they could live there or not. They started spouting off every insult they could think of. I interrupted them and told them it in fact was not their family home. And if they were looking for their family home, they need to go talk to their mom, because she chopped it up and put it up her nose. And that wasn't my problem. A huge part of the reason I don't want them here is that their mom has since squatted multiple places, forcing roommates to have to threaten her with eviction to get her out, and basically told the last one she would leave for a certain amount of money. The kids and her are very close, and I don't want that happening in my house. We also have reason to believe the oldest may be using. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole for keeping your solely owned home for yourself. But I do question what agreements you had with the dad of the kids before the two of you got married. Yes, they're adults, but only as of recently. It seems like you and their dad have it firmly defined and aligned on your role in their lives before marrying, which makes me lean toward everyone sucks here. We got married when the youngest was 20. They said they didn't want to be involved with me. I respected that. So amazing that they feel entitled to move in, when they have stated previously that they want nothing to do with you, and referred to you as that C-word. Do they imagine moving in and having you fawn and slave away over them, all while they maintain their current attitudes and disrespect? Not the a-hole. And where is your husband in all this? They shouldn't even be talking to you. He should be the one setting them straight, and let them know it is actually your house. Don't understand why you marry a guy with his background and also have credit issues. Sounds like a recipe for drama. My marriage with him is fine. He contributes and has a job and makes his own money, and we have no drama aside from this, since he tends to spend his time with the kids away from the house, their choice. His spending habits are responsible, and their financial issues being caused by her tracks with everything I've seen. Your husband should be on your side. Is he? He is. Not the a-hole, but I would have your husband deal with his adult children. They should not be referring to you that way, and they especially should not be claiming your home as their family home with their adults. Sounds like they have some growing up to do. Sounds like they need jobs and to find their own place to live. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she was naive when she thought her daughter would suddenly see her stepdaughter as a true sister when they didn't get along before? My sister has an 18-year-old daughter, Casey. It was just the two of them for 10 years. Casey never knew her dad, which means my sister had sole custody of her. When she was little, Casey used to talk a lot about how there were these mean girls in school. One of them, Valerie, Casey disliked more than the others. She was the worst. My sister did her fair share of complaining about the dad too, especially when she had to replace and erase her a couple of weeks into school starting because Valerie broke it. When Casey was 9, my sister and Valerie's dad started to spend time together, and then they got married a year later. There was a lot of shock on my part, seeing as my sister knew how Casey felt about Valerie, and given her own complaints about Valerie's dad allowing her to get away with so much. But he's an attractive guy, and I guess that won out over everything else. The announcement to Casey went about as well as can be expected. She was furious at her mom. More so on our wedding day because my sister wanted the girls to match and look like sisters for the first time. Valerie used the wedding to taunt some of Casey's friends, saying she was going to replace them with her. It only added fuel to an already bright fire. Casey ultimately refused to take part in the wedding on the day and sat with me. Things in their household were tense for years afterward. My sister would get upset that Casey was so mad about it, that she didn't change her opinion of Valerie at all, and that she would very strongly deny that they were sisters. About 2 years after she got married, my sister decided they all needed family therapy. It was only the last 2 years that Valerie appears to have grown, and from the outside it does not look like she's the bully she once was. But Casey still cares nothing for her. Both girls graduated in May and Casey moved out and in with me, wanting to get away from Valerie. The other day, my sister and I met up for lunch, and she was venting about Casey not talking to Valerie at all, and how Valerie had wanted them to meet up every day after classes started, but Casey didn't even answer her. They go to different colleges, but both are local. She said she thought after all these years, Casey would see Valerie as a true sister, and even if she didn't like her, there would be some sense of family loyalty there. I was shocked to hear my sister say that. She noticed and asked me why I looked like a fish. I told her I had never expected her to be so naive to think Casey would feel that way when she hated Valerie long before she, my sister, met her husband. My sister's attitude changed very fast, and she told me that I'm the naive little brother to think these things don't change when family bonds are created. I told her that family bonds aren't created that easily when there is already bad blood present, no matter how much she might want them to be there. She told me I owe her an apology, and she'll be waiting for it. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your sister chose her partner over her daughter, bringing her bully into her home and trying to force them to play nice. Her daughter will never forget, or get over that. Well done for supporting your niece. Always. She's always going to have a place with my family. Honestly, we love having her live with us. Thank goodness the daughter has some sane family members. I can't imagine forcing a child to be in the same room as her bully. Not the a-hole. Your sister is delusional to think family bonds were created between two adolescent enemies, one of whom was actively bullying the other just because their parents got married. This isn't a Disney special. It's always crazy to me to encounter people who have this highly idealized vision in their head and the way they will absolutely demolish their relationships thinking the ideal will be realized. Your sister let her daughter down. This might have been salvageable if Casey's dislike of Valerie had been taken into account from early on. Your sister and her husband did not give it enough time or attention. I feel really sad for Casey, but honestly it sounds like she's doing alright. She isn't obligated to have a loving, warm relationship with Valerie. I can't imagine how this will play out moving forward, aside from poor Casey being essentially estranged from the whole lot. But you are not a-hole for trying to draw your sister's attention to her delusion. She'll always have my family and me. I've promised Casey that. Our family has always been small. It was just my sister and me for years. Then she came along, then I got married and had my kids. But I will never turn my back on her or let her down. Not the a-hole. What you said was long overdue. She betrayed her daughter in a grotesque, selfish, cruel, and unforgivable way. I'm the naive little brother to think these things don't change when family bonds are created. Of course she has it totally the wrong way around. She's the naive older sister if she thinks these things do change, and that family bonds are automatically created just because the two parents got it on. Casey is gone from her mother's life and is not ever coming back. By the way, from the outside it does not look like she's the bully she once was. Smart observation there by you. She's got better at hiding it, more subtle in her tortures. At this point, Valerie doesn't have to bully Casey. She won. Her dad married Casey's mom and together the two adults choose Valerie. Casey was dismissed from the start. She only needs to pretend to act sisterly and friendly, then complain to Casey's mom that she is trying, but Casey just rejects her. Then mom finishes the job by getting on Casey's back about not having any family loyalty. I'm glad OP is in her life, and hope she gets away from her awful mother and stepsister. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take care of my stepdaughter? My 28 female live-in boyfriend, 32 male, has a daughter 11 female with his ex 30 female. I'll call her my stepdaughter even though I'm not legally married to her father, because for all purposes we live together. She lives with her mother during the week and spends the weekend with us. However, her father occasionally has to work on Saturdays and I take care of her by myself. Last weekend, she got her first period while she was out with me, so I helped her and explained how things worked and so on. I later found out her mother was livid because she called my boyfriend and gave him an earful that I didn't immediately call her because she would pick her daughter up. Because as the mother, she was the one that had to be with her daughter during her first period, and I took this away from her. What bothered me the most is that my boyfriend did defend me, which he says was because he didn't want to start an argument and make an already difficult relationship with his ex even trickier. So I told him I won't take care of their daughter by myself anymore if I'm to get blamed for whatever decision I make while I'm with her. And if he has to work on a Saturday, then he should get her only on Sunday or change the visitation arrangement. Am I the a-hole here? Stepdaughter was fortunate to have a caring adult around who could help her through a stressful experience. Nice that you could be there for her. That said, if your boyfriend isn't going to bat for you against his ex's weird demands, you're in for a world of hurt for every other first that stepdaughter experiences while she's alone with you. If the only way your boyfriend understands this is because he feels the pain of his inaction, so be it. Not the a-hole to hold him accountable. Or maybe he told that his current housing situation might change if he keeps throwing his landlord under the bus. Oh man, not the a-hole. Hard situation. He should have defended you. Mom shouldn't have blamed you. If this was something she was concerned about, she should have asked him about it in advance. This just isn't cool. If he's not going to defend you, then how are you supposed to be supportive in this situation? Just not cool for you. Imagine how the daughter would have felt if you would have called her mom about it. Like, that could have come off embarrassing and like a big deal was being made. Sounds like you did the right thing. Not the a-hole. You were not respected despite your commitment to these relationships. He could have said, "We are not mind readers. We did not disrespect you. We had no idea the role you wanted to play. Please be proactive in stating your preferences in the future." Notice the we. He does not present you as a united front to her or others, but when it is convenient, he'll accept your dedication to his daughter. This is BS. She took this away from herself. Mom created this outcome. She never conveyed her preferences for her daughter's first period. This is completely on her, then had a huge reactive behavior after the fact. If this or another event is important, either parent needs to state this verbally and in writing to the other. Refusing to care for your stepdaughter by making dad present on his days is fine. However, continue to support and cultivate the relationship you and her already have. The child should not be aware of your request and his need to change schedules. Kids have no control of their parents' obligations. They simply want to be loved, accepted, and not the source of relationship friction in either home. Best to you. Am I the a-hole for sacrificing my daughter's college fund because her sister just gave birth to her fourth child? My 48 female older daughter, 24 female, gave birth to her fourth child 6 months ago. She used to work as a dishwasher, but due to health issues stemming from her second child, chronic back pain, and then her third child, after effects of broken tailbone and more chronic pain that made standing and moving around hard, she can no longer work. She tried her best, getting an office temp job, but after about a week, the woman supervising her said this isn't working out. She was a very uptight woman who claims it just always took her 3 days max to train everybody else to the data entry work, that she can't just be a good person and accommodate slow learners. That woman likely caused her to get a bad reputation at a temp agency, and she didn't get hired elsewhere. My daughter's boyfriend, 28 male, works at Walmart. He had much more hours when she was pregnant, but since then, his hours have ebbed and flowed. He said he will take a day in the future to look for jobs, but it's the holidays and is busy with family. I feel a lot of empathy for my daughter and her boyfriend, and I wish I could help them out more. But I myself, a single mom working for a nursing home where I struggled to get full-time hours. And my ex ran up a lot of debt in both our names, and is now living in another country. My younger daughter, 17 female, has a college fund. The amount in it would be enough to pay a large amount of a 2-year community college tuition, given the scholarships/grants she would likely get. She's applied to 4-year universities, with the understanding that she'd be taking out loans and working, so she's deciding between 4 years and community college. The other issue dropped after my older daughter's landlord found out that they were having her boyfriend's brother and girlfriend living in their one bedroom, in exchange for them helping with the rent, and they got evicted. My daughter agrees it was wrong to lie to the landlord, and both parents are depressed because her boyfriend got a job offer once stayed away, and they would have to move from their support network. They came to me asking for help so they could have more time to find financial stability here. I was torn, but seeing my grandkids, I knew my duty was to care for the most vulnerable in the family. So I will be making calls to liquidate my daughter's college fund, saying yes to understanding the penalties, and told my daughter this. She got very cold and said, "You always brag about having a good memory. I hope you remember this moment then." She has not spoken to me since. Spent Thanksgiving inquiring with family friends to see if hospitals are keen to hire college students for kitchen or reception or anything. Made some cryptic posts about how she hopes she'll be grateful one day that she won't have the privilege of studying anything outside of something technical because she needs something where she'll always be able to find a job in. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. So your oldest daughter could barely afford 3 kids, has chronic pain, no job, and decided a 4th child would be a great idea? And then you thought the best solution was to anger your other daughter and mess with her future, when there was an option of them moving so they could get more money? Of course you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. How can you not see what you have just done to your youngest daughter? Recall the advice your daughter gave you. It will be necessary to address the question of why you never see her, and why she refuses to allow you to see your grandkids. When OP's youngest daughter is successful in the future, OP will play the, "See, you didn't need my help anyways. It all worked out. Any difficulties you faced just made you stronger." And then she will wonder why her daughter isn't thanking her for giving the opportunity to do it on her own. Hope you like these 4 grandkids a lot, OP. They're likely the only ones you'll get a relationship with. You're the a-hole. Why does your daughter have 4 kids if she can't support any of them? They should be using birth control, and you should not be cuddling them. Now you're sacrificing your younger daughter's future because her older sister can't find a condom. And further, why are they not in any form of aid, even church handouts? Why is the sister to bail out here? The oldest daughter is disabled, and they make Walmart money. They definitely qualify for multiple assistance measures. Medicaid, SSI, SNAP, TANF, work rehabilitation. I mean, even Head Start. This seems like textbook learned/willful helplessness to me. Applying for aid requires recognizing that you're in a bad situation and need to do something about it. The oldest daughter doesn't think she needs to do anything about it and refuses to acknowledge that she can because she's learned that if she whines hard enough about things, others will fix her problems for her. She's been raised with no concept of personal ownership over the consequences of her actions, and OP is just reinforcing that again and again. Getting your mom to raid your sister's college fund requires a lot less time and effort than applying for aid for yourself. And the older sister sees nothing wrong with this, as she's obviously become incredibly self-centered and entitled as a result of all this favoritism. Helping family is great, but the way to actually do that is to help them take ownership of their problems, rather than just fixing it for them. The fact that OP didn't realize that she's the problem while tapping this out doesn't give me high hopes that the enablement won't continue. Next story. I kicked my step-granddaughter out of my house. For context, stepchild was evaluated and examined by a psychologist and physician the police department chose. The child showed no sign of abuse. The psychologist said stepchild is a danger to others and needs extensive help, and she advised we keep her away from our family. We tried to include her in our family, but she's made it damn near impossible. So I, 57 male, have a daughter who is 30, well, almost 31. In 2019, my daughter married her now husband who is a bit older than her, but not much. He's 39. I begged her not to marry him, not because I don't like him, but because of his terror of a child. My daughter has a son with my son-in-law, and my son-in-law has a 13-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. The 13-year-old has made it damn near impossible for my daughter to enjoy her baby. This child is incredibly dangerous in my opinion, and before the major event that caused me to cut contact with her, it was always something she had going. Last year, the 13-year-old stepchild told the school that my son, 22, had SA'd her, and it started a crap storm of police interviews and other things. It came out pretty quickly she was lying, because my son has a large burn scar that takes up the lower half of his body, and the stepchild couldn't identify it via photos. My son volunteered for and passed a polygraph test. The psychologist who interviewed both my son and the stepchild deduced rather quickly that the stepchild was lying. When confronted, the stepchild admitted she was lying because she was angry my daughter wouldn't get her a laptop. We had a situation at Christmas before where I bought my daughter a gaming laptop, and my step-granddaughter wanted it but her tantrum didn't work, so she decided to try and steal it. Still didn't work. I invited my daughter and grandson to Thanksgiving and told my son-in-law he was more than welcome to come but his child was not. He said he understood. So, my daughter, my grandson, and my son-in-law show up on Thanksgiving Day. Everything was going well until we hear the front door open and in walks stepchild. Apparently, her mother had gotten wind we were gathered at my house and decided stepchild should be included. I met stepchild at the foyer and told her she wasn't welcome in my home and needed to leave. She got smug, saying, well, my mom's already left, so, and tried to push past me. I held my arms out and stopped her, telling her to get out now. I forced her to back outside and told her she could wait by the mailbox while she called her mom to come get her. This child has never heard no more than a few times. I told my son-in-law he could do what he wanted as long as it didn't involve bringing her in my home. He went outside and came back in to tell us that apparently her mom thought we weren't allowed to gather unless it included stepchild. Her mom ended up coming back to get her only when I called the police. I had her and her mother trespassed. Her mom pitched a fit, but the officers fully understood once I provided proof this brat had lied on my son. Now everyone on my son-in-law's side is saying I'm an a-hole for being mean to a child, but frankly, I'd prefer never to see her again. Not the a-hole. The child obviously has either some type of mental illness or she's lashing out due to the divorce. Either way, she needs therapy and needs to stay with her mother until she gets help. I would not put my child/grandchild in the path of this little liar. By the way, the bio mother just dropped the girl off at Opie's house tells me where the granddaughter gets her attitude. Not the a-hole. If she can make false accusations about your son, she can make false accusations about you or anyone else in your family. She is not safe to have around. Please don't forget that OP has been emotionally abused by this girl. He had the right not to be in the company of his abuser. Not the a-hole. As soon as the girl falsely accused her son of SA, all bets were off. You did the right thing by not allowing her in your house. Maybe she needs mental health help, but that's not your problem. Your responsibility is to your own family. For real, we're approaching Christmas again. If she comes by, she might accuse OP of SA. This is just self-preservation. My cousin did this to an uncle. She had asked him to tickle her in a living room that her parents were both in at a time. Then later, said it touched her inappropriately, even though it was in plain view of several adults. From that moment on, he would not be alone with her. He would not play with her, though she begged many times. She liked the attention the complaint got her, but then didn't like the consequence that he no longer engaged with her. She later accused a teacher of SA when she was in middle school, and it was also found to be a lie. But her family, instead of giving her consequences, packed up and moved to a different state. I hate this, because girls who have serious accusations go through worse hell. My son had to help raise hell when a brat accused this older guy who drove their bus of touching her. She'd pitched a fit because he stopped the van and made her sit down before he moved. So she accused this nice old man because she was mad. Son always sat behind him just to talk. I liked him, so was able to confirm nothing happened. These kids make it harder for actual victims, and of course, put innocent people through hell. Not the a-hole. That kid has major problems, and could have potentially ruined your kid's life with her false allegations. Your son-in-law is an a-hole, because he had a hand in raising the entitled brat. He needs to get her some kind of help, because nobody seems to want her around, which is why her mother was so quick to try and palm her off on a family where she had already accused someone of a horrible crime. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not offering my half-sister any of our grandmother's belongings after she was disowned by the family? My 26 female grandmother recently passed away. My grandfather passed 6 years ago, which is when the bulk of their assets were divided up. My grandmother lived in a stipend from his estate until her death, so all she had to leave in her will was her possessions, mostly jewelry, vintage clothes, and some art in the house. This was all left to me, as I'm the only granddaughter she was in contact with. My half-sister Angela, 27 female, is also her granddaughter, but Angela and her mother sued for inheritance from my grandfather's estate after he died, which culminated in an ugly legal battle that ended up making both my grandmother and father quite ill. The case was eventually thrown out, but everyone thought Angela and her mother harassing a grieving woman the way they did and suing for money they were not owed was despicable, and none of us except my dad have spoken to Angela since. So going through my grandmother's things, I called my dad, uncles, and cousins and asked if there was anything they wanted of my grandmother's. The art was in high demand, the rugs, etc., and I gave everyone what they asked for. I didn't call Angela. Not only have I not spoken to her, but she hardly saw our grandmother. And knowing her, she'd ask for something expensive and pawn it. She heard from our dad that I'd be handing out things and found me in social media to chew me out for not offering her anything, calling me greedy, selfish, and a terrible person. She said she's entitled to have something and really should have had half of the stuff, given my grandmother had more than one granddaughter. I don't agree that she should have had half, because at the end of the day it was my grandmother's choice and her possessions. But I am wondering, given how hurt she sounded in her voice note, if I should have offered her something inexpensive/not sentimental, just as a token to be polite. Did I mess up? Now for the comments. Angela and her mother sound greedy. Your grandmother decided that she wanted everything to go to you. It is yours legally. You have the right to decide to distribute it to other family members, which you did. Do you think if you told Angela you would give her something inexpensive, not sentimental, she would have been satisfied? You know her better than Reddit does. Your dad was wrong to tell Angela what you had done with what you inherited. Not the a-hole. Block her. Tell your dad you do not want to communicate with her again. Tell your father if he thinks Angela should have something, he should give her something he has already received from you. Angela is living with the consequences of her actions. Cause and effect. Yes, that's right here. OP is not the a-hole. One of my exes had to deal with predatory cousins selling off things they stole from his grandmother. They were living with her, and the family still doesn't know how much they looted and grifted from an old lady with increasing health issues and possibly dementia. Not the a-hole. Your grandmother's estate was left to you. It is up to you who you give things to. Your half-sister has no claim and no right to any of it. Your half-sister can be as hurt as she wants to be. It is all up to you. After the way she behaved when your grandfather died, she really deserves what you have given her. Exactly. The nerve of Angela to call OP greedy, selfish, and terrible, as if she completely disregarded and justified her actions after suing OP's grieving grandmother. Her greedy self deserves nothing. But my petty self would tell her to expect her inheritance in the mail soon and just send her an envelope with $1/1 and a note to go F herself. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not punishing my 4-year-old daughter after she said my sister-in-law smells like fish? I'm 25 female, my daughter is 4 female. My daughter Leah was sitting with me, her dad, and her baby brother on a couch. This was on Thanksgiving. My sister-in-law came over with her kids and husband. She walked through the door and asked my daughter for a hug. Leah walked over to her and stopped dead on her tracks before saying, "You smell." I corrected my daughter and told her that wasn't nice and she should apologize. But my daughter proceeded to say, "But mommy, she smells like fish." My sister-in-law got angry and started yelling at my daughter about how she was being disrespectful. My daughter started crying and I started yelling at my sister-in-law that she had no right to yell at my kids and that she should have talked to me about the issue instead of yelling at her. She proceeded to say she should be punished for what she said. I told her I would not punish my child for saying what she did. Instead, I would talk to her about her actions. She then left, taking her kids, and called me a crazy witch for not wanting to punish my child. My side of the family is saying that I'm not in the wrong, but my sister-in-law's side is saying that I should have punished her for her actions. Am I the a-hole? If someone smells fish, there isn't a 4-year-old in the world that won't point it out. At least with what went down, smelly fish lady wasn't in your house long enough to stink the place up. I'll never forget when I was a kid, we went with my parents and my grandparents who are from out of town to the old country buffet. There was this horribly fishy smell, but just rancid and disgusting, and I kept asking my parents what it was, and they would kind of giggle and whisper amongst themselves and tell me that they would explain it later. I was maybe 7, and it was just so annoying to me that they wouldn't tell me what it was. And eventually, after we went home, I finally got to talk to my mom privately, and she explained that sometimes older women don't wash their privates very well, and that was the smell. It was so horrifying to hear that as a kid, lol, but I sure made sure to always wash my privates. And a 4-year-old is going to be line of sight level, especially if they're coming in for a hug. What 4-year-old isn't going to shy away from that? Bro, I'm in a wheelchair. There are days when I wish I could be as innocently blunt as a 4-year-old.